when the pursuit is I want to lose the most fat as possible, I want to build as much muscle as possible. If either one of those two is your main goal, then the mindset should be doing as little as possible to elicit the most amount of change.
It's not being lazy.
No, it's not a lazy.
It's systematic and disciplined.
No.
And that's the thing. You got to look at the plan and stick with the plan.
I want to make the case that you're going to get more than just relatively fit. I think the steps that you're about to give right now would get most people very healthy and fit.
We're also working on behaviors.
That's right.
And I think this, even if you did the first 5 steps, this in combination with the first 5 steps.
Where you want to end up.
Oh, this is beautiful. Hey, what's up, everybody? Here's the giveaway for today's episode. MAPS HIIT, high intensity interval training, but done the right way. This is the only HIIT program I'm aware of that doesn't make you lose a bunch of muscle and just, move in place, burn a bunch of calories. This is actually good programming. We're going to give it away for free, okay? Here's how you can win. Leave a comment in the first 24 hours that we drop this episode. Make it a good comment. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Do all those things, and if we like your comment, we'll go through, right? We'll pick the best one. If it's you, we'll notify you. You'll get free access to MAPS HIIT. One more thing. We got a sale this month in June. The Shredded Summer Bundle. This is a bunch of MAPS workout programs. So you got MAPS Aesthetic, MAPS HIIT, MAPS Prime, the Intuitive Nutrition Guide. That bundle is already discounted. We're going to take an additional 50% off right now. And then MAPS HIIT by itself is also 50% off. So those are the sales that we're going on this month. We won't repeat them again until next year. So if you want to take advantage, go to mapsfitnessproducts.com and then use the code June50 for that discount. All right, here comes the show. One of the most important steps when it comes to fat loss or muscle gain is figuring out how many calories your body needs every single day just to maintain. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, this can be a lot of guesswork, can be quite challenging. So
we're due for an episode like this. It's been a while since we talked about some of the steps. And I know you said something before we started that I think it's important to let some people know that are listening to this right now. I actually was, I don't know if the reason why you said that was you read some of the questions on our qual or not, but there's a handful of people that, feel like if they track, it triggers their old behaviors of binging. So although we're going to lay out some steps that we would start most our clients on to get them started when it comes to tracking your calories and figuring out your macros, hang in till the end, because I know that we'll address people that tracking is a kind of a trigger for them to binge, and like how would we coach someone like that. So both how I would coach someone that has no past history of binging and, how do we dial in the diet for whatever their goal is. We'll cover that first. And then at the end, go to like, okay, what would we do if you have someone who can't track, right?
Right. Yeah, and also, we've got a lot of questions too about like how to get that accurate like maintenance calories. And there's lots of formulas out there and lots of, macro calculators and ways to get there. However, simple always wins in the beginning. And so we'll kind of go over that in terms of like how to just get started and really figure that out.
Well, it's super important to understand that metabolism is very complex and it's not stationary. In other words, how many calories you're burning today can change and adapt within a day or two, just by your behaviors and your activity level, hormones, sleep, and all that stuff. So it is something that moves and flexes. And it's important to understand that because when you figure out your calories, it's important to understand that it can change. It can change just because you're working out a particular way or cutting calories or increasing calories. There are a lot of macro calculators out there. We have one, right? We have one at mapsmacro.com. And so what you do is you go in there, you enter general activity level, body weight, and whether you're male or female, it'll spit out a number. But it's important to understand that these are all general rough estimates.
Generalizations. Yeah.
And there can be a very wide variance from person to person. I've had 130-pound female clients that burn more calories naturally. I'm not talking about just through activity, but just their bodies burn more calories than 220-pound male clients who have gone through a process of extreme dieting and all that stuff. So it can be quite radical. So you can use these calculators as a general idea, but you'll never be able to get accurate that way. And there really is no machine or anything, at least that's not pragmatic, because you can go to like a university and get really complicated testing, in which case you'll get a snapshot. This is what your metabolism is doing right now.
Right.
And, which again, the value of that would be I'd have to do that every single day. So it's not very pragmatic. Nothing's going to be as accurate as what we're about to talk about. And it is a bit of a process, but if you do it and you don't suffer from the behavioral negatives that can come from tracking, it can be a very effective way at getting your body where you want.
Well, ironically, we have a calculator and I don't use it.
Right.
And the only time I really recommend it to somebody is if they feel absolutely clueless onto what they've ever consumed. They have no idea. They've never tracked before. I don't know if I eat 5,000 calories. I don't know if I eat 1,500
Just
calories.
helps you organize your thoughts.
Right. I have no idea where I'm at in that range because I've never tracked before. I have no idea what I should probably start at. So I think those tools, and all of them are, I would put in this, even those tests that you can go take and they kick off, where your kind of calorie should be. They're all flawed. But yet, if you have no direction,
it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's better than just blindly guessing a number. Oh, I'm just going to do 2,000 because that sounds like a number I should do if you have no idea. But most people have somewhat of an idea, or by the time I get a hold of them as a trainer or a coach, they've tried tracking or they've paid attention a little bit. And so for them, or they can relate to me, this is how I've ate in the last couple of weeks or how I normally eat.
And then you can help them.
And then I can go, okay, I can estimate, okay, that's about this many calories. And then I normally will go put them at a number that I feel is pretty close to where I think they're currently at.
And then monitor.
And really, it doesn't matter if I'm off by 500 or 700 calories because I'm going to adjust if I need to. It really is, let's just agree on this is a good starting point. And that starting point, when I decide that I'm not looking to, even if the person's goal is to lose a bunch of weight or gain a bunch of weight, I don't initially want to do that. I initially am trying to figure out where is their metabolism at currently right now based off of their normal activity.
Yeah, well, this is where I would see a little bit of a flaw with that. Somebody that's just going to the macro calculator is trying to figure out how much they need to lose right away or gain right away. And they're not putting the work in terms of what your actual maintenance level looks like. And so I think that's like the perfect place to start. Usually that takes a couple of weeks to figure out.
Yeah, and I do want to be clear too. This is true for fitness experts too. If you look at the studies on people when they try to estimate their calories, even well-informed people, right? You take me or Adam or Justin, and we know what has proteins, we know fats, carbs, we know calories. We've worked with people for very long. And if I haven't tracked for a long time and you tell me to estimate my calories, I'm going to be off.
Always.
Yeah. Always. Nobody is ever. Now, the less you know about calories and proteins and fats and carbs, the more off you're going to be. And you would be surprised how many people are so, it's like, I remember at one point being like, I need to eat, 40 grams of protein. And I'm like, oh, this is a chicken breast. This is probably about 40 grams of protein. And then I remember weighing that chicken breast and going, oh, that's like 70 grams of protein. Yeah. That's way more than I thought that it was. And I supposedly, know what I'm talking about. So,
well, they've done research on this, right?
Yeah, it's clear.
People that just simply tracking, not even trying to change macros or do anything, just by simply tracking the amount of people that lose weight just from becoming aware.
Well, how much, and you always bring this up, like even just on the back of labels of food, like how much they're off in terms of serving size or whatever they're promoting.
10 to 20%?
25%.
Yeah.
Up to 25% they can be off.
So
North or south.
You got to factor that in too.
By the way, and that's measured packaged food. You go to a restaurant that I'm going to get that chicken bowl. Oh, it's got 546 calories. The kid who scooped the chicken or the rice in there today, it's going to be off 20% versus the kid that did it before. Yeah. Or you get
heavy-handed Harry, dude. Let's go.
Or you go buy some fruit. Like, back in the day, we didn't have these great apps that you could enter food in and whatever. And before people even weighed, I would say, oh, medium banana, this many calories. And then I remember one time I was like, let me weigh this banana to see if it's an actually medium.
It's a super jumbo banana.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, this is way off from what I thought. So
let's make sure there's clarity on that, Doug. I believe it's 25%. I want to be accurate on that. I'm pretty sure that's what the FDA allows food labels to be off. But to your point, Sal, about eating out, if you factor in that the FDA allows you 20 to 25% room north or south on it, and then you add in human error,
Yeah.
Because so when you go to a restaurant and they have to label the calories, let's just say like is
20%.
So it's 20% right? So
that's high.
This burrito
That's
bowl
400 if it's a 2,000 calorie diet, that could be 400 calories.
well, okay, so this burrito bowl has this it has 1 cup of rice, 6 ounces of this, whatever, and it has to be this many calories. FDA says that they have to be within 20% of that. The problem is then you have somebody who is serving it who potentially can go over by 10 or 15% on the rice or over on the meat or whatever sauces or guacamole or whatever else you're doing. And that's not held accountable the same way that the recipe is.
No.
So you could literally be off by 30 to 50% very easily by the room that the FDA allows with the labels, and then in addition to that, the heavy hand that a lot of these servers will do because they want you to be satisfied and happy with your
Or
serving.
if they add a little extra oil.
Yeah.
Or, stuff
So
like that.
man, that's what makes eating out so difficult when you're trying to do it. So part of, and I don't even think we actually listed this in our steps, but I think this is another good point since we brought this up. When I'm asking a client to let's figure your metabolism out, let's track, this is the time when I'm asking if I could ever get you to be as disciplined as possible to make your food yourself. This is the time.
Because we're trying to get as accurate a number as
That's
possible.
right. We're trying to be really accurate. And if you are eating out, which that doesn't mean you can't eat out in the future. We'll figure out how to adjust for that. Doesn't mean I'm asking you forever you can't eat out. But for this next week to 2 weeks that we're going to be tracking to figure out where your current metabolism is at right now, you limiting how much you're eating out does a wonder for me as far as trying to get precise on where your metabolism
or
is.
at the very least, or to put it differently, I would say, so step 1 is what you're talking about, which is track calories and macros for 2 weeks. And what you don't want to do is change your diet or change your activity. We want to see where you're normally at. Now, to what Adam's saying, if you eat the same thing every day and you're tracking it, what I would have a client do is then weigh that. Okay, so they're saying, I'm eating this, I'm eating that. Well, can you weigh that for me so I know exactly how many calories you're taking in? And the goal of this is not to live like this, by the way. I don't think it's reasonable to ask somebody to track food for the rest of their lives.
I also don't think it's unreasonable to ask someone to do that for only 2 weeks
the
to
point.
learn.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
We just want to know. We just want to know right now what a good starting point is and get as accurate as possible. And this is one of the best ways to do it. And so what you do is for 2 weeks, everything that goes in your mouth, you weigh it and you track it, and you know. That way we know. And there's apps that are amazing for this now.
Mm-hmm.
Fat Secret, very easy to use. Enter the food in. Once you weigh it, you could plug it in. It does all the calculations for it. I mean, we used to have to do this out of a book. I remember that.
by hand.
What was that called?
Calorie King.
Yeah.
There's a book, and then it became a website. But we didn't have this crazy resource.
Yeah. So and you want to keep your diet like it's been, because I don't want to see how you can change it in 2 weeks.
That's such a good point, Sal. And I always have to reiterate that to a client when I'm explaining to them is like, I know you've got your coach or your trainer sitting across the table from you telling you we're going to start tracking, pay attention. But what I don't want you to do is to try and impress me. This week, I want you to be consistent. I want you to do what you normally do, so I can
This
get
isn't your Instagram food.
Yeah, this is not. This is not trying to impress Coach because he's paying attention. If you every day eat a Snickers bar at noon, I actually want you to do that.
Yeah,
right
I need
now.
to see what your body's burning.
I want to be able to track everything and go like, okay, this is a normal diet, because it's going to tell me not just where your calories are. It's also going to let me know how imbalanced your macronutrients are. Is this person not getting enough healthy fats? Are they under consuming on the protein? Are they getting enough fiber in their diet?
The more accurate you could be with this first step, the better. The less accurate you are with this step, the more it's going to be challenging for you moving ahead.
Yeah, and accurate means being consistent with how you normally would
That's
eat,
what I mean.
not like accurate to following
I've had clients who were like, I need to lose 40 pounds. And they'd bring me their tracking for the first 5 days. And I'd look at it and be like, you look like you're following a diet all of a sudden. Like for breakfast, you have like 3 ounces of chicken breast.
And I'm only drinking water. I'm like, no. All the drinks that have calories in them.
Yeah,
please.
you got as consistent and as you can possibly be with your normal life, because you need to get an accurate reading. Otherwise, we're going to base it off of an accurate number. It's like doing math. Like when you do a math problem, it's got 15 steps. If the first step is off, that's it. You're screwed. Like, and the more it's off, the more the whole number is going to be off. So you have to be super accurate, because this first step of tracking is going to affect the rest of what we're going to do.
It reminds me of this foundation I was laying for the shed, and I had a guy helping me, and it was just off. It was off like maybe like a half inch on one side.
That was it.
Ruined everything. Like everything was wonky after that. So it's just like, it's got to be right.
This also sets the table for easy coaching steps. And what I mean by that is, like, when I was talking about how when you track like this, many times what we find out is you're over consuming sugar, underdoing protein, like not getting enough fiber. Yeah. There's like a ton of things where you're missing. And instead of like taking you from that's how you normally eat to like, okay, here's the diet the trainer gives you, I'm actually going to look at that and go like, hey, let's improve one or two things here. And just focus on that. Like, I'm not going to coach anywhere else from that. But
you wouldn't know where to go if it wasn't accurate.
That's right. If it's inaccurate, then what everybody thinks they want is, okay, I'm on my fitness routine. Okay, coach, give me the diet. I'm going to follow the diet. It's like, why would we do that? If you were coming from this extreme of under-consuming on fiber, over-consuming on sugar, under-consuming on protein, not getting enough healthy fats, like, there's so many little things that I can start to make tweaks that won't make these radical changes in your lifestyle that are so hard to follow. It's just like, oh, wow, we're that low on fiber. I'm simply going to add this, spinach salad into your diet or a cup of blueberries, and I'm not going to mess with anything else. Let's just see what that does for your diet.
Another quarter gallon of water.
Yeah, so that is the idea of this, is to get a really good baseline of where you're currently at so we can make these micro adjustments that eventually lead to this huge change in your lifestyle.
Yeah, so what's the key here? Patience for the first 2 weeks.
Yep.
Just track, try and stay as accurate and as normal as possible. This includes activity.
Yes.
This also means you don't all of a sudden do a bunch more activity because you know that you're tracking. Be normal and patient for the next 2 weeks because this is going to be the base for everything that we do.
If you do want to as well, like this is where we do recommend like Fitbits or Apple Watch, whatever. So you do just get a little bit of an idea of like how many steps per day, because that does kind of, at least you can see the trends that way.
Yep, no, totally. This is it's something that I make mandatory. So I know that we talked about it as a potential option in these steps. I think it gives me so much insight. It also, again, sets the table for micro adjustments.
Yep.
So if I get a client and I say, listen, don't do any extra activity. This is the day, this is what you do at work. This is when you go grocery shopping. This is the day you clean house. Keep all normal stuff the same. If you rarely go to the gym, I actually still want you to rarely go to the gym. I don't want you to all of a sudden, because we're getting ready to start our routine, to go to the gym 5 or 7 days a week, because if you don't normally do that, you're going to throw off my calculation. So I want to see a normal week of activity or the lack of, so then I can, and I love using steps as an easy way to kind of measure that. So then I look at a week and I go, oh, look, we only average 4,000 steps. Now I have another subtle thing that I can do to this client that will show improvement in their overall health by just telling them, okay, for this week, we're going to try and shoot for 6,000 steps a day.
Yes.
A basic, small, easy goal with, by the way, an extra 2,000 steps is literally you going for a walk for 20 minutes outside, and you'll achieve that. So it's not a big ask to get my client to start moving in the right direction. And because I know where their baseline is, I can do this little micro adjustment.
Totally. Now, step 2 is kind of an extension of step 1, and that is to track your body weight and circumference measurements, or body fat percentage if you want. Because what we want to do, the goal is after 2 weeks, you didn't go up and you didn't go down. Okay, so everything should stay the same if you did this right. Now, if you didn't do this right, don't worry. If it went up or down, that'll help us get a better estimate of your caloric intake. So if somebody's tracking for 2 weeks and they're like, okay, I tracked everything, but I dropped 3 pounds or 4 pounds over the last couple weeks, and I let's say I rule out water retention and that kind of stuff. I'll say, okay, well, you probably ate less than your body's burning within that period of time, probably a few hundred calories less. So I'm going to readjust your maintenance by that. Or let's say you lost weight and lost strength and lost performance and that kind of stuff. Then I'll do the same thing and say, well, you probably underate. And sometimes that happens, by the way. It's more often than not. That's what happens when people track. Even if they try and stay normal, that actually, because they're aware, like Adam said, they tend to naturally eat a little less. So if I see some weight loss, which I don't want, but let's say I see that, then I'll know, okay, you're probably a few hundred calories above what this number is that we're tracking. Now, if you weigh yourself, if you take measurements, if you do body fat test, it's very important that you do all of it same time of the day, same food intake, same water, same everything. Because what we don't want to do is, I gained 4 pounds, but really it's because you weighed yourself at night versus the morning.
Right. Or
I took a body fat test. Well, yeah, last time John tested me, this time it was Susan, and they both have different ways of pinching my, my skin fold, with the calipers and all that stuff. So want to be as consistent as possible.
If it's just weighing yourself on the scale or like doing like, I know Doug a lot of times will do just like the waist measurement in the morning, it's just great because nothing interrupts that yet. Like you haven't had any food. Like it doesn't vary at all. It's always pretty much the same that you're like situation that you're going to deal with in the morning. So I always like try for that. But again, like it really just has to be consistently the same time, the same exact protocol every time.
Now, during this 2-week period, I'm actually not making any adjustments unless I see something very dramatic happen.
Yep.
And I like to take the 1 week snapshot. So like I'm having them, get on the scale or track circumference or whatever, maybe on a morning or daily basis for the time period. But
you're looking at the trend.
I'm looking at a week at a time, right? So because you could easily, especially my female clients, fluctuate, water retention up and down by 2 to 4 pounds. And what we don't want to do is go, oh, I'm way under eating because I dropped 2 pounds, and then you increase your calories, and then when you would have leveled back out the next day. So I'm paying attention because I don't want to see anything dramatically happen. Like what I don't want to see is day 1 of deciding to do this, we drop 2 pounds. Day 2, we drop 2 pounds again. Day 3, we drop 2. I'm making a quick adjustment at that point. If I see 2 right away, okay, we're under eating. We need to increase our calories. But if I see 2 pounds go down one day and then you come back up 1 pound the next day, and then like we're probably in a pretty close area, I'm going to pay attention to.
I would say depending on the individual, at the end of the 2-week period, the buffer that I tend to give people is about 3 or 4 pounds.
Yeah.
Above that or below, then I start to say, okay, the calories that you were tracking were off from what you normally, like I remember once I had a client who had a lot of weight to lose. He had 80 pounds to lose. We did this, and I said the same thing I just said now. I said, make sure you're accurate. Don't change anything. Everything's the same. At the end of 2 weeks, he lost 8 pounds. And I know what happened is that just because he's aware, instead of eating 5 cookies, he ate 3 cookies or whatever. Instead of eating, 10 ounces of meat, he ate, 7 ounces or whatever. So I said, okay, I know you said you were accurate, but it looks like you were actually below what your maintenance is. So I know we have a little bit room to go up. So that's why this is very important. But if you do this right, you should have no change.
That's the goal. The goal is at 2 weeks, I see no change. And the things I always have to make clear to my client is that just because we don't see a movement on the scale doesn't mean we're not already seeing progress. So
especially if they start working.
Yeah. So you come to me, you want to lose 30 pounds. I tell you, okay, the next couple of weeks, we're going to be tracking, figuring all this out. I actually don't want to see anything go on the scale. Right away, they get discouraged. Right away, they think like, oh, you mean to tell me I'm going to be doing stuff and tracking and working towards my goal, but yet in 2 weeks, I'm not going to see results. And it's like, no. We are. I mean, if we are weight training and we are tightening up the diet, figuring out what you're consuming, I promise we're moving in the right direction. What I just don't want to see is this dramatic drop on the scale like you think you want to see.
No, we need an accurate number.
No, yeah, we want it. And absolutely, if you stay the same and you've weight trained for 2 weeks and you're starting to track your food, I promise we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Then you got a good starting point, right? All right, so step 3 is now that you have a accurate-ish number that your body's burning on a regular basis. In other words, your maintenance. So we figured out how many calories you need to eat every single day to stay the same, okay? To stay the same body weight. Now we can adjust according to your goal. So now I can look at this and say, okay, you're averaging 2,500 calories a day. We didn't gain or lose any weight. Looks like you were pretty accurate with your calories. I know you want to lose weight. Now I can drop you down to 2,000 to start the weight loss. Or, okay, you want to gain muscle. You were eating 2,000 calories a day. That keeps you the same. I can bump you up 500 calories. Or, which is more common, people want to lose weight. I look at their calories and go, they're too low to cut from.
Yes.
We're going to do a slow reverse diet.
That's almost build. That's almost every time.
Right.
So that's important to make this clear right now.
It's like 80% of the time, I would say.
Every once in a while, very rare, but every once in a while, you will get somebody who will track for 2 weeks. They'll come back. And this has happened to me, but it's 1 out of every 25 or 50. It's very low. We'll come back and be like, well, Adam, looks like I'm eating 5,500 calories of junk food. I'm only moving 2,000 steps. And it's like, oh, cool. And for a trainer, by the way, this is like heaven. Like getting somebody who is ate like shit, 5,000 plus calories. They're not moving whatsoever. It's like, oh my God, this is going to be such an easy climb.
A couple small steps.
Yeah, a couple small adjustments to diet. Like, yes,
boom.
let's skip the McDonald's. Let's have this instead. And then like, oh, we're going to start weight training. Oh, and start moving 4,000 steps a day. And this person is just going to head the right. They are rare that you get that. Most people have tried to diet and lose weight on their own so many times that their metabolism has slowed and adapted to this, like what Sal was alluding to, this really low calorie intake. So even though you came in to see me and you go, Adam, I want to lose 50 pounds, we track and see where you're currently at. So let's just say let's say you weigh 250 pounds and you want to drop down to 200, and we track your calories and you're averaging 2,100 calories and you're a male and you're 250 pounds. I'm not going to cut you from there. Even though your goal is to lose, yes, I could drop you to 1,500 calories, show you initial drop, but I'm going to convince you here that, okay, actually what our goal is going to be now is to slowly increase calories and do our best to keep the scale about the same. Kind of how we decided to start those first 2 weeks, we're going to extend that. But now I'm going to start introducing a little bit more calories based off of what I see now. And normally I have a direction. That's either fiber or that's protein, right? So there's different things that I can look at and go, okay, we're not getting, or healthy fats, I'm not getting enough of that. So I'm going to bump you like with an avocado now into your diet.
Yeah. Now, without getting too much in the weeds, because this episode's more about how to figure out your calories. Usually, what it looks like is, okay, your calories are too low to cut from. Because remember, consider this, okay? You're losing weight. We're going to cut your calories to lose weight. We don't want to end up in a place that's not sustainable. Like, I don't want you to end up at 1,000 calories a day to maintain your 30-pound weight loss. It's just not going to be sustainable. I know you'll gain the weight back eventually. You live in a country where food is all over the place, and nobody wants to live that way, right? So usually the calories are too low to start to cut from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly increase your calories. That's step one. Definitely do strength training, because strength training sends a signal to the body that says build muscle. Simultaneously, it says speed up the metabolism. So we're going to boost the metabolism that way. And Adam said your body weight doesn't change, because what ends up happening when you do it the right way is your metabolism speeds up, you lose some fat, you gain some muscle. Weight stays the same on the scale, faster metabolism, but you're smaller overall because fat takes up more space. The third thing I usually do is I increase your protein intake. Most people are not eating the amount of protein that can maximize the results from protein. Protein is also very satiating. We've done lots of episodes on this. So that's the other thing that I'm typically looking at. Sometimes essential fats are not high enough. And I've seen this more in my female clientele. It seems like this is less and less of an issue, but back when I was training people, fat was so demonized that I'd get female clients be like, you ate 20 grams of protein, of fat today. Like, we need to bump your essential fats up. Or your fatty acid intake up. You need more fat. So usually those are the steps that we'll take. And then once we get the calories to a point where I feel like we can cut from, then we'll start to cut. If you want to bulk, we typically just go from there and start your strength training. And then again, like Adam said, the rare occasion that I get somebody who's overweight because they're eating so many calories, it's a real easy, place to start from where I can do the cut.
And I think so. I mean, I'd like to hear what you guys do. I have my way of like, how do I decide, when I've been adding calories, how do I decide I want to come back the other direction?
Yeah.
Like, what's that number look like? Because obviously everybody's going to be different weights and, male, female, activity level. So there's all these different variables that would decide this person, I start to cut at 2,500, this person at 3,500. Yeah. So how do I determine that? And what I'm looking for a client is I want to take a client and I want to slowly increase calories until the feedback I get is, Adam,
it's like a chore.
Yeah.
Like I'm eating so much food.
Yeah, I want to take a client who needs to lose weight, and I want to be able to change their diet and their macros and start feeding them the nutrient-dense foods that they need, and focus on strength, like Sal was saying, and slowly keep increasing calories until the pushback I get is, Adam, I'm having a hard time hitting my calorie intake.
Yeah.
That could be different for everybody. Maybe 3,000 is a lot for you. Maybe I got you all the way up to 4,000, 4,500 before I come down. It's going to be different for each client, but that's what I'm seeking. I'm looking to get you to a place where it's like hard to get your calories in, because then it's very natural for you to go, okay, hey, don't worry about that fourth meal I had you eating. Just skip it.
Now, this is a relatively slow process, and I say relatively because in the context of how fast people want results, it's slow. People want results tomorrow. But I remember one person in particular, young lady that I trained, she competed in figure competitions. She also ran a lot. So she was running about 25 miles a week, working out 5 days a week, She was competing in figure competitions. When she came to me, she was consuming roughly 1,300 calories just to maintain. We slowly got to the point where she was only lifting weights 3 days a week and only running 5 miles a week. So that's a huge reduction. This is over a course of a year. We did a reverse diet. I got her up to 2,600 calories. And her body fat percentage maintained at a very low percentage. So from 20, now, which one's easier to maintain, right? So that's why this is such an important thing. Don't think short-term, don't think how am I going to lose weight, think how am I going to keep it off.
Right.
That's the place that you want to be when you're doing this.
Right.
All right, next step, don't radically change your activity yet. Don't get to this point and be like, okay, cool, I know where I need to go. 5 days a week of tons of activity.
This is a lot harder than most people think. It's because of the motivation and the hype, and it's you're doing these things and you're starting to really kind of dial it in. The next thing you want to do is just go for it and go ham, with the activity, because basically adding the kitchen sink, it just means like you're going to get to your goal faster.
Yeah,
right?
that's what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks more work, more effort, more results, and it just doesn't work that way. I mean, I treat it the same way I did when I was competing as I do with my clients, which is all the if you tell me as a client, like, Adam, I could come in 2 more days a week and lift. I can. I got the time. I'm committed. Or, hey, I could go on my lunch break and I could go for an hour walk. And they're telling me they can do all these things. Or on the weekends, I could go for these big hikes. It's like, cool. We got all that. And that's great that we have those as a possibility.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. And I want to use all those things for plateau breakers. If we are seeing results by increasing calories and focusing on strength and moving at your minimal amount, 3 days a week, you're training in the gym, that's it. And we are changing your body composition week over week. I don't want to fuck with that. I want to keep that going until we start to stall, because it's inevitable. The body will adapt eventually to all those things and you will start to stall a little bit. And then now we can use all those things to kickstart the plateau.
Here, let me use an analogy, because I think some people watching are like, but why? Like, wouldn't it just be better? And what if they really want to move more? And, okay, so here's an analogy. Imagine if I had like 10 workers and I came out and I said, here's some plans. We're going to build a very sophisticated building. Here's step 1. We're just going to build the foundation. And they do that really well. And then I say, okay, here's another 200 workers. I have no more plans. Keep building. And they're like, what do you mean keep building? Just build. After a year of them building like crazy, I show up with the plans and say it's all wrong. Tear it down. Let's redo this. That's what ends up happening. You throw a bunch of activity at yourself. Inevitably, what happens, you do something unsustainable. You push your metabolism in the wrong direction, because the activity people tend to choose
cardio
is tons of cardio, which can make your metabolism want to go in the opposite direction and prevent the muscle building signaling. And then you end up in a position where all the stuff we're talking about just went in the opposite direction. So you did all this activity to lose an extra 10 pounds. Now you're stuck and it's unsustainable. Why isn't my body working for me? I can't possibly work out more. I can't possibly cut my calories more. Oh, great. I give up. I gain all the weight back. So patience. Don't radically change or increase your activity. Here's the way that I think you can radically change your activity. Focus on building strength. That's positive. So if you're not doing strength training, we're going to do that. What we're referring to is, kind of what we said earlier, which is, cool, now I'm ready to go. I'm going to go from 0 days of tons of activity to every day.
It's really the calorie burn mindset.
Yes.
Right? Where you're just trying to do anything and everything you can to promote movement and activity.
Totally.
And I'm not against that for when we get to the final parts of your goal, to shred that last bit or to take you to a level you've never been. But, at the beginning, and I say this all the time on the show, is that, our goal is to, and this goes for both building muscle and for burning body fat. My goal is to do as little as possible to elicit the most amount of change. And that should be the mindset when we're doing this. That is not the mindset for health and becoming athletic and stuff like that. But when the pursuit is, I want to lose the most fat as possible, I want to build as much muscle as possible. If either one of those two is your main goal, then the mindset should be doing as little as possible to elicit the most amount of change.
It's not being lazy.
No, it's not a lazy.
It's
smart. Systematic and disciplined.
No.
And that's the thing. You got to look at the plan and stick with the plan.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys this. How important in terms of sustainable progress results is how you start?
Yep.
Right? Yep. It's everything. How you start is everything in terms of sustainability. All right. So step 5, now this is when you start, you hone it in. And remember, I started the podcast by talking about how metabolism is changing. It flows. It can move up. It can move down. Whatever your number was that you started with was accurate for that period of time. It's not going to remain accurate. Your metabolism is going to speed up, or maybe at some point it'll slow down because life gets stressful. Maybe you're not eating as much. Maybe you're not getting good sleep, or you got sick and you couldn't work out or whatever. This is where you slowly hone it in. You pay attention to the signals, because what you don't want to do, and I've seen people do this before, is they do the first 4 steps beautifully, and then that's it. They stay there.
Oh.
Even though stuff is changing, even though the body's telling them that's not enough calories anymore, or that's too much now, they stay to it. No, this is how many calories are burned. This is how many calories you burned, but now, we got to pay attention. So what are those signals? Well, body weight, body fat percentage, circumference measurements. Performance is my favorite goal. That's my favorite metric. If you're working out in the gym and your energy is dropping, your strength is going down, you're feeling sore, you're feeling stiff, that sometimes can tell you you're not feeding yourself properly. It could also tell you to adjust your workouts. Maybe you're working out too hard. Your energy levels, like throughout the day, sleep, all these things. Pay attention to all these, because then you can, and this is the beauty of fitness, it's a tool that improves the quality of your life regardless of the context of your life. But that means you have to change it. That means if I'm really stressed out and stuff's going on and I can't beat myself up in the gym like I do when everything's going perfect. I can't feed myself the same when everything's perfect. So every single week you pay attention to these things and you move things up, you move things down. This is how you start to learn to read your body. And this actually will move you in the direction of never having to really go crazy with tracking again. Not that you'll never go back and revisit it, but you can move to a position where you just need to hone. You hone all the time, and you can maintain this kind of balance.
We listed this as the 5th step, but this really does belong at the beginning too. And the reason why this is so important to understand this, even right out the gates, is because you come in and you hire me and you want to lose 50 pounds on the scale. That's what drove you to come to me, right? And to invest into hiring a coach or a trainer. It's really hard to stay the course if you don't learn to attach your success to all these other things in your life. Your energy, your sex drive, your hair, your skin, your mood, your productivity, like your strength and performance.
Yeah, pay attention.
It's so important to reframe your goal. You come in, the big goal is to lose that 50 pounds, and we're going to get there. But right away, I already want my client to start paying attention to those things so they can see those small wins, because we may not get those big wins on the scale for a while. Mm-hmm. It may be months before I start to really show you that scale dropping in the direction that you came in originally. That's all you wanted. Mm-hmm. So this is so important that when you're at this place of, I have this big goal, I want to lose all this weight, that, okay, that's fine. And that's the big goal. But initially, when we are trying to do this correctly, figure out your macros, figure out your calories, work with your metabolism, not against it, we want to start to attach all the other things to it, right? Like I just listed off, the mood, the sex drive, the hair, the performance.
You ever watch on YouTube, they'll have these videos where someone's building something or sculpting or doing like a piece of art. And for the first 3/4 of the video, you can't even tell what it is. Until after about 3/4, you go, oh, wow, that's going to be a gorgeous painting, or oh my God.
Yeah, or that guy that like paints upside down portraits and is just like throwing paint on there, and you're like, what is he doing? Then at the very end, the reveal is this amazing
it's kind of what people do is they don't pay attention to the progress. Like you watch someone building something, I watch people building things on these videos all the time, and I know what the title says, so I kind of know what to look for. But I can't even tell until about 3/4 through. That doesn't mean they weren't moving towards that the whole time, even though I couldn't tell. So it's important to pay attention to all these other things. And by the way, that's what's going to drive you for the rest of your life. Because
those things you're going to be able to tweak and modify based off of your energy level, based off not getting enough sleep, based off of, sex drive, whatever it is. Like you get a better understanding of your body and those, that feedback, that signal, and you're listening to your body in terms of like how things are going. So you'll be able to adjust down the road.
Yeah. And often those signals, for lack of a better term, predate weight gain or weight loss. So before the scale goes in the wrong direction, you'll notice your performance change a little bit. You'll notice your sleep is a little off or whatever. So these are really, really good signals to kind of pay attention to.
Well, anytime you're building anything of any significance, this is important. I mean, think about trying to build a business, and if all we thought about was the dollar amount that we needed to make, how quickly do you give up? Like we would get,
How much we got to invest just to make the next level?
Yeah, we would have given up on this business years ago if all we were measuring was the amount of money it's producing for us or making, which is similar to going in and saying, hey, I have this big weight loss goal, and the only way I'm going to measure my success is the scale weight going up or down. It's like, no wonder so many people quit. There's so many other aspects that are so important to laying a solid foundation that you have to learn to pay attention to that. Just like in business, it's like, okay, yeah, we're not making any money yet, but we've now built this, and we've now created this, and we've now built this community, and there's more people. It's like you have to think the same way when you're going towards a massive goal when it comes to sculpting or building a body. Is like there are so many other markers that you can already be moving in the right direction, even though maybe the ultimate, scale, making money, whatever, isn't happening yet for you.
Great analogy. Okay, so let's say you're somebody that's like, man, when I pay that close attention to my food, when I start to weigh things, when I start to count things, it messes with me mentally. It's not good for my behaviors around food, not good for my relationships around food. Or maybe you're just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to live that way. Is there another way to do this? And there is. Now, I am going to be quite clear. If you want to get to your goal faster, or you want to get shredded, or you want extreme performance, what I'm about to say is not great. So what I'm about to say doesn't apply to a guy who wants to get below 10% body fat, right? Or a woman who wants to get a little bit of striations in her obliques or whatever. But what I am about to say will get most people to a pretty balanced state, meaning you're going to get relatively lean, relatively fit, relatively healthy, which is cool because most people, that's all they want. Most of the clients I ever trained did not want to get 6% body fat, or at least didn't want to live the lifestyle that required to get 6%.
I'm gonna make the case that you're gonna get more than just relatively fit. I think the steps that you're about to give right now would get most people very healthy and fit.
Well, that's
very
what I mean.
healthy.
I say relatively because
you're not gonna get on stage.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not gonna get shredded that way.
No, but you're not. You're gonna have a flat midsection.
Yeah.
You're gonna be mobile,
look and feel great, which is what most people want to do, and it's fair. Now, what you're about to list too, though, is it's inevitably going to take longer because you're not being very precise about it.
We're also working on behaviors.
That's
here.
right.
And I think this, even if you did the first 5 steps, this in combination with the first 5 steps,
where you want to end up.
Oh, this is beautiful. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to hone in, and this is true, on our body's natural ability to want to be healthy. Now that sounds crazy because we think, our body's natural tendency is to want to be obese and inactive and all that stuff. No, it's not. The problem is that we've modified our environments to the point where our primitive bodies don't match the environment, and we're paying the consequences. So how do we get our bodies to want to be able to read the signals properly, to live in this modern life, so that it's healthy, not obese and unhealthy? Well, number one, and this is a big one, and I used to love messing with my clients with this one because they would all lose weight. Usually I would see, no joke, 10 to 15 pound weight loss for clients, sometimes as low as 7, but usually around 10 to 15 pounds just by doing this. Avoid heavily processed foods. And I love doing it because I would always follow up by saying, but eat as much as you want. Yeah. And my clients would always trip out. What do you mean eat as much as you want? Well, don't eat, try to avoid foods that come in boxes or wrappers or, pre-prepared food. Just eat whole natural foods. Eat until you're full, and that's it. We'll see what happens. And they would always lose weight, and they would always think there was something magical about the food, and somehow, my God, the chemicals in heavily processed foods, I didn't know they made me fat, and what do they do? And no, this is really what it boils down to. It's quite simple. Heavily processed food are engineered. There's a lot of money that goes into the right combination of salty, sweet, fat, crunch, appearance, how it feels in your mouth, I can't even list all the things that they pay attention. And this has been over the decades. They've really made this a ridiculous science to the point where you will overeat. Studies now show this very clearly. 600 calories of overeating on a regular basis happens from eating heavily processed foods.
Well, too, this kind of behaviorally forces people to slow down and to address this. You're gonna have to make something out of this whole food. You gotta actually do some work to cook it. You gotta go grab all the items and put them together. You actually know what is in there in terms of you have a better sense of the actual calories that you're gonna consume. There's a lot of other factors that go into this, but it's definitely one of those, like the quickness, like it's easier to get the processed food because it's like ready already versus, you know, I have to actually plan this out.
There's also a very important psychological game that Sal's playing too, is he's not telling the client that they have to eat this certain way or they can't have something.
That I'm not taking anything away necessarily. I'm
You're
saying
not
eat as much
punishing
as you
yourself.
want.
And that may be one of the most powerful things. Aside from that, the food's hyper palatable when it's processed and it makes you want to eat more food. Just simply the psychology of, oh wow, my coach is saying that I can, if I'm hungry, to eat. I don't have to fight that. I don't have to fight that
So
feeling.
any fruit, vegetables,
Just
meat, eggs.
make choices as whole food choices. It gives them this freedom, and it doesn't make them feel like they're restricting, which is a very dangerous place for these type of people. Right, we're talking to right now people that have a tendency of binging. So giving them the freedom to eat when they want, so long as they choose from whole natural foods, really unlocks that. And I think that's one of the most powerful parts.
So
of
let me illustrate just how big of a deal these heavily processed foods are, or how it affects us. Okay, imagine if I took all of the ingredients for let's say a small pizza, okay, and I took them separately. You had your cup of flour, you had your water, you had your oil, you had your pepperonis, you had your tomato sauce, all separately, and I said, eat all this, right? Eat all of this in the next 30 minutes. Nobody would be able to eat just a cup of flour, and it would be gross. But if I put them together and organize them into a small pizza, well, now it's hyper palatable, and I can eat the hell out of it. Here's another example, right? A family-sized bag of potato chips is like 5 potatoes. I could eat a whole bag of potato chips, no problem. I could not, even if I tried to force myself to eat 5 plain potatoes with nothing on them. It'd be very hard, right? That's how powerful these foods are. Simply avoiding them, and they do really good studies on this. They'll literally take this. There's very few totally controlled nutrition studies. Most of them are based off surveys, which is why nutrition and diet advice is so wonky. But they've done really good control studies where they take groups of people and they put them in a lab. Literally, scientists are watching everything. They say, you over here, this group over here, you have access to heavily processed food, and then you over here, you have access to whole natural foods. By the way, they control for macros in there. So very similar macro breakdown for people who are like, oh, one group is eating more protein or whatever. No, it's very similar. Then they watch them and say, eat as much as you want. They don't say anything else. Then they watch them, and then they take those groups and they switch them. They switch rooms. Okay, you can't make a study better than this. Consistently 600 more calories a day from heavily processed foods. And you want to talk about, you know, what's contributed to the obesity epidemic? It's not carbs. It's not fats. If you look, the instance of heavily processed foods in our diet, how much that goes up, our obesity goes up. So I think now it's something like 70-something% or 80% of our diets are heavily processed. So that's just one step right there that tends to bring you a little bit more in balance. All right, the next step is to aim for a high protein diet, okay? If you track anything, make it protein. So take your body weight and divide it by half, or aim for your body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, try to eat 100 or 200 grams of protein. On the higher end is probably better. And each meal, break that up and say, okay, every meal I need to have 40 grams of protein, and eat that first.
Yeah, I was going to add that.
Yeah.
I think that's the next key to that is like first figure out how many grams of protein you need, target that, make sure you eat that first. And if you're sticking to whole foods, I tell you what, sticking to whole foods and leading with a protein
Your
first,
calories drop.
it's hard.
Dramatically.
It's hard to overconsume with that.
That's the key. A lot of people don't realize that. It's hard to overeat when you do those two things right there. So,
It's you know, it took me a long time to figure this one out, that even as a coach and trainer, understanding all this stuff like that, like just my own behaviors around, like, because the way we were served, like at any restaurant you go to, a carb comes out first.
Bread or chips.
Yeah, bread and chips and breadsticks and dips, and like that's what you get at almost every restaurant. And then by the time you get your nice steak that you ordered 30 minutes later, you've munched on everything else. And then you also have the temptation of the mashed potatoes and gravy or whatever else is on the plate. And so a lot of times I would watch myself leave some of the protein on there because I got so full eating other stuff, or stuff myself on the meat because I feel guilty because I'm like, God, I had this expensive steak that I ate and I'm full right now, but I don't want to leave any of that. So then
but even then you would eat less if you ate the steak first.
Yeah, if I would have just ate the steak first.
Even naturally.
And again, playing with the psychology again, telling clients, no, it's not that you can't have these carbs or that, just eat that first and then afterwards indulge in that. And what ends up happening is you eat less naturally.
Higher protein diet contributes to more muscle growth, which contributes to faster metabolism. It also produces the most satiety. So just eat your protein first and try and eat high protein.
And it's essential.
The next one is to drink a lot of water, 0.5 gallon to 1 gallon a day. Now, is this because water has this, incredible ability to melt fat off your body? No, doesn't do that. Doesn't flush fat out of your body. I've seen people actually say that. Drink a lot of water, flushes fat out of your body. Doesn't work that way. What it does do, though, is it makes you not drink anything else. And it keeps you hydrated, which also helps with appetite. And that's it. Those two things right there make a really big difference. Like if you aim for that water intake, you're far less likely to consume calories from other fluids, and and it actually reduces cravings. Sometimes cravings occur because you need water. They've actually shown that in studies.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, energy levels was a big one for me. I noticed when I was properly hydrated, I was just more active just as a result of feeling energetic because I was fueling my body with the proper hydration I needed.
Yeah. Again, you're playing the psychology game
totally,
too, right?
These are all behavior, right?
I'm not telling this is and I can't stand when there's fitness professionals that like to take something like this, like the drinking a gallon of water thing, debunk it, shit on it. Oh, we don't need that much water. We don't need that much water. The reason why this thing is so valuable is that if you give a client a goal like that, if someone's never drank a gallon in a day or 0.5 gallon a day even, and you give them a 0.5 gallon goal, well, they ultimately always come back like, wow, that is so much water.
Yeah.
It's have a hard all day long. I'm trying to get to that gallon. They're so focused on drinking enough water in the day, their mouth isn't busy snacking on bullshit or drinking liquid calories.
Yep.
So that's one of the most beneficial parts about this. Yes, water is important. Yes, we need water, but there isn't this like arbitrary number that everybody needs exactly this much. No, it's just like when I give a client a goal of a 0.5 gallon or a gallon, what I have found is they're so focused on taking in versus saying that I can't have these other things. And I think that's another great strategy when you're doing
totally. Here's the next one. Don't eat while distracted. In other words, don't be on your phone while you eat. Don't watch TV while you eat. Just eat. Just focus on your food. Now, why say this? Studies are consistent. They show about 10% less calories are consumed. Literally because you're distracting yourself with your phone. First off, you could be invoking anxiety or fear or sadness or whatever from being on social media, which they do very well. They do invoke those feelings very well, which tends to make people want more comfort from food. But even if we remove that, being distracted means you're not as in tune with the signals that your body's telling you. And so studies will show when people eat with their phone or in front of the TV, they eat about 10, 15% more calories. So if you eat 2,000 calories a day, not eating distracted will cut your calories on average by about 200 without even trying. That's the beauty of this. It's not even something you have to count. And again, speaking of the behavior, I'm not telling you to eat less. I'm just saying don't eat while you're distracted. No. And then let's watch what happens. Here's another one. This one actually I posted on Twitter and people didn't understand. They thought it was some magic digestive thing. Don't drink fluids while you eat. It has nothing to do with the combination of fluids and food and digestive enzymes and all that stuff. It has nothing to do with that. It just slows you down.
Yeah.
When you drink while you eat, you tend to eat faster, which means you tend to eat more, which you can't read. Your body doesn't pick up the signals of satiety as quickly. This was a huge one for me.
You can get away with bigger bites, like bigger quantities at once because you can wash it down. And that's something I had to train myself to be able to eat it and slow my pace down and actually get all the chewing in, which helps with the digestive process as well. So there's lots of benefits to that. And it just seems like common sense. But for the most part, if anybody's like me, which I think a lot of people are out there, you end up finding yourself just consuming and washing down to get it in.
Yeah, studies show that when people eat things that are really palatable or tasty and they have fluid with them, they'll eat the food, I think 20% faster. So think about this for yourself if you're watching or listening to this. Think about when you eat something that's really palatable, pizza or lasagna or something that you really, really like and it's really fun to eat. Think of how you eat that. You probably have a drink in your hand and you're probably bite, chew, wash it down with a soda or something like that. And it's because it's just part of the behavior. When something's hyper palatable, you're not even thinking about the food that's in your mouth. It's about the next
bite.
And the fluid allows you to do this faster. Take that away and just say, okay, I can't drink any fluids. You're going to chew and slow down way more. And slowing down, again, cuts calories by like 10%. Just doing that alone cuts your calories by 10%.
This is another one that blew my mind because I didn't do this until later in my career just as a test because I didn't realize how much. And I think some of that comes from, and you're probably the same, Sal, when being the skinny kid who was trying to bulk, like I had trained myself so well to like shovel food because I couldn't get enough calories in to build like I wanted to when I was younger, that I didn't realize how much that behavior had stuck with me all the way into later in adulthood. And I remember the first time that I tried to eat a meal without any fluid, how weird I felt because I didn't realize, man, I literally have my left hand on the drink.
Yep.
You know, subconsciously, not even really thinking about it. And the right hand is like shoveling food in. You take 1 or 2 bites to absorb the taste. I'm already shoveling the next. I'm washing down. And then it's like, whoa. When you don't have that drink there and you have to like completely chew your food, it really makes you aware of like, I had no idea how bad it was that I was doing
This was the worst for me when I was, always like same thing, always trying to put on size, skinny kid. And then I was a trainer and I would train 8 people in a day. Plus I was trying to eat 6 meals in a day. So it was like I had 7 minutes between clients to eat this meal.
Just gonna wolf it down.
I would stand, I'd have my water, I'd have my food, and it was like just like that. It was like I was taking supplements. I would chew, swallow, and I went nuts. And now for me, I developed digestive issues. This was a big deal for me when I took out the fluid while I was chewing. It made me chew my food more. But nonetheless, again, studies show that this slows people down and results in about 10% reduction in calories. Finally, just eat mindfully. What does that mean? Just take note of how you feel. How you feel before, how you feel during, and how you feel after. That's all. You don't have to do anything else. Now, what does this lead to? Eventually, what it leads to is connecting your feelings to cravings, okay? Your feelings to how you may self-medicate with food. Now, the only reason why this one's hard for some people is some people don't realize this, but when you try this, you might start to realize this. They don't want to be mindful. If it's your drug, which it is for most people, so don't feel bad if this is you. If food is a way that you medicate, one of the last things that you may want to do is be mindful of that fact that you're medicating. So give you an example. It's lunchtime, and normally I eat distracted. Whatever. Okay, Sal said on the podcast, be mindful. So how do I feel right now? Well, I feel anxious. And then you're in line to get yourself a slice of pizza and a cookie. And they go, oh, I'm getting a slice of pizza and a cookie, and I'm anxious. Is this how do I crave these foods when I'm anxious? So there's some work that's done with this mindful practice. But if you do this and don't judge yourself, if you do this, what'll happen is you'll start to make more mindful choices. And slowly over time, you start to make choices that are better for you overall. So that's basically what it means. You don't have to go crazy with it. All you got to do is be mindful. Don't judge yourself, and that tends to move you in the right direction.
Well, if you also follow the steps before of eating whole foods and slower and not, you start to pick up on the body's natural signals of telling you it's full that you've completely, suppressed for so long. Like so many people shovel food so fast or eating these hyper palatable foods that they're so out of tune that you have these natural signals that say, hey, you're good.
Yeah.
And so by being mindful, slowing down, doing all the steps that we said before, you'll be surprised how many times you're eating and you go, and you might have this big plate in front of you and you're done. You go like, oh, wow, I'm pretty full. Whereas in the past, you would have just kept shoveling or you would have ate something that would have hijacked that feeling and you would have kept going anyway. So being mindful and aware of when your body starts to give you that natural signal of, oh, I've had enough to stop. I've had enough.
There's a saying, and I think it's in Japanese. Maybe Doug could help me here, but I think there's a saying in Japanese that says, eat until you're 80% full. Is that?
There is something. Let me see what that is exactly.
Yeah, but I think that, and I love that. I love that because we have connected eating until you're full to eating until you're stuffed, right? Oh, I'm full, like you're filling up like a tank of water. Like, oh, that's about it. We can't fit anymore. Yeah. I love that saying.
So you're in agony.
I love that saying. It's like eat until you're 80% full because then you eat more appropriately versus the like, oh, I think I can't fit any more food in my mouth. Did you find it?
Yeah. Hara hachibu.
Okay. And is that literally what it means?
Yeah. 80%.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah. Look, with that, if you love our information, head over to mindpumpfree.com and check out our guides. We have guides that can help you with almost any health or fitness goal. You can also find all of us on social media. So Justin is on Instagram at MindPumpJustin. Adam is on Instagram at MindPumpAdam. And you can only find me on Twitter at MindPumpSal.